Hi everyone. So I just want to do a quick video that's going to explain one of the ideas I had. See, right now my wife and I are about to move into our first house. We're really excited about this, but we just moved into this apartment before we decided we really wanted to get that house. So now we're very quickly going from unpacking to repacking again. But we decided or figured out really on our last unpacking process that it was a mess. Everything from the packing to the moving, the actual movers that we hired to finally trying to unpack, and we never really finished unpacking, and it's been more than 6 months. So even though this is our second time, we are going to try a new method to pack, unpack, and get everything done on time. And I might do a follow-up to see how well this works, but for now I wanted to share with you the idea that I had, see how well it works. So basically, and I do apologize if my background has a little weird stuff going on, but because we're moving, I don't have the lights set up or anything, so my green screen isn't perfect. But basically, my idea was we wanted to avoid any potential problems with the movers themselves. With let's just say we don't want them to break something without us realizing it, to lose something, lose or steal, but I trust people mostly not to steal, but they may still lose something. We did have a problem with that last time. We also don't want things to get lost in some other way where it gets misplaced, so it ends up in the wrong room and we could be spending weeks looking for it. There are still things that we have not been able to find that we packed. For example, we moved right before the entire COVID pandemic started, and we didn't really have enough of the Clorox wipes or any of those sorts of disinfectant things. So I was thinking, I have a big bottle of rubbing alcohol, and you can make disinfectant out of that. And for the life of me, I still can't find that bottle of rubbing alcohol. So for the first few months, we were using what little we had left of our Clorox wipes, and still haven't found that rubbing alcohol. Luckily, we managed to get some rubbing alcohol through the mail. It took months to do and 2 tries because they kept getting our address wrong here. But we finally got it, and we've been able to make some stuff, and everything's been great. And now we're starting to see some things come back to the shelves. We started to get a lot more disinfectant products, so we're good for now. But from that experience, we learned that there are sometimes things that you really want to get that you might not realize you want that badly. So we want to be able to keep track of every single thing that we pack, or at least get the idea of what should be in which box. So we have that we want to do. We also want to make sure that we actually keep on a schedule, or at least a goal, to unpack everything. So we're going through all this, and I think, you know what? We got so many different ideas here. Why don't we make a Google spreadsheet? That way both of us can access it, and we can just use our phones and we can just check off everything we need. And as we're packing, we can add more things and check them off. And as I'm going, I'm starting to think of more things that I can do with this. We can add little check boxes for if it gets unpacked, or maybe if it shows up and it's damaged, we can actually be like, hey, this guy's damaged this, let's mark that as damaged. Now we know that's been damaged. And we can also mark which room it would go in, which whether it's been I have so many things on here, I have to go quickly look. Let me see. Yeah, whether it actually arrived, if it got lost, or whether, so we have a plan on how to do all this. So let me show you the spreadsheet that I made. It actually includes some pretty smart little features. A few things I programmed. It's not perfect. It works for me, but I thought maybe this could be something that you guys might want to try doing yourselves down the road. Might work out. You have to customize your own. I'm not going to be sharing exactly how I made this, but everything that I did on here was very simple. It was either already built into Google Sheets, or it was something you could very easily look up with a very simple formula. Let me show you. Sorry for that hiccup. So right over here we have the first page of my Google Sheets is basically a statistic of unpacking. Now you could probably do this for things that you're packing as well, but it just seemed to me like that's a lot of information that you got to put in So I thought maybe at least if we have a plan for unpacking. So basically every single room has its own uh, dedicated chart that shows you how far unpacked it is. So as you fill up these boxes and you fill up the page, it will actually keep track of all the ones that you have. And as you start unpacking them, you check them off and it will keep track. And then we have the grand total overall, so we can actually keep track of when we're going to be done unpacking entirely. So at the bottom, you'll see that we have all of the different rooms. Now in my case, I have a kitchen, I have bedrooms, I have study slash office slash game room. We have the living room, and we threw the dining room in there because they're pretty close to each other. We have the uh, bathroom, so that includes the master bathroom and the guest bathroom. And we're now getting a half bathroom, so we have a few options there. And then anything else that we just didn't decide, needed its own tab. We're not going to have that many things in the garage, but we do have one now. The foyer is not very large, so we don't really need to fill it up with a huge number of boxes. And then we just have a place for stuff that we didn't really know where things belonged. And as you can see on each one of these, they actually have the chart on that page as well, so you can keep track of that one specific room or set of rooms as well for unpacking. You also have the last category. These are rental boxes. Now for us, we're actually going to be renting these large plastic bins, and you do have to rent them per bin per day, but when you're done with them, you just return them and you don't have anything to throw out, anything to get rid of. They're reusable, they're environmentally friendly for that matter. They're actually very large, so you can carry a lot. And in our case, we're actually going from a place that has an infestation of insects to a place that is completely brand new. And insects are known to live in cardboard boxes. So we're taking these boxes and we're going to be using them in the places where the insects are the most prominent. That way they cannot live inside these boxes as in the walls of the boxes. It makes it a lot easier to prevent them from spreading. We're also going to be putting up some traps when we get there to make sure nothing came with us. But each one of these is a little bit different, but let me go through a quick little rundown. So for the kitchen, for example, all of these will have a box code. So this is just in case you don't want the movers, if you're hiring movers to know exactly what's in that box, they can't read it. It just has a number, K001. So we know this is kitchen, box number 1. They will have no idea what's in there. You can then say whether or not this is like an emergency thing, you need to open this right away. We also have if it's fragile. So if it's fragile, you can mark it fragile on the box and mark it fragile over here, so you keep track of that. Then when we get it over there, we can mark that, yes, we checked it, the box is right there, we know it arrived. That way we know nobody lost it, it didn't get stolen. And then we also marked whether or not, as we're unpacking it, we find something was damaged on the inside. That way we can make sure that the right people are held responsible and, we can replace the items. Then we mark it as unpacked. So when we're done doing that, we can mark it as unpacked. And next to that, we actually have a content of all the stuff inside that box. That way you can keep track of exactly what it is. So in this case, we have the spices that we don't use all the time. This is actually a little plastic box that we have. That way we can keep this box ourselves and store it somewhere. But this way we don't have to worry about, do we need these spices now before we move? No, these are the ones we don't use that often. We'll get by without them right now. And we can actually we know what, if it's a spice that we don't use every day, it's going to be in here. If you want to get more specific, for example, number 4, this has a whole bunch of tea stuff in it. So we have not just tea stuff, random stuff. So it's got a large bag of matcha tea, it's got some cheesecloths, some toothpicks, etc., etc. So we get down to as much detail as you want, and then you know exactly what's in there. And we also have one that's just like the tea box. All of our tea is in that box, so we know we don't have to say exactly which tea. We just know if it's a tea, it's in that box. The matcha tea is an exception, but pretty much this is how it's going to work out. And they don't all have to be boxes. We actually have one that's this tangled bag. In this case, it's a bag it has the Disney's Tangled characters on it, and it's a plastic reusable shopping bag. And we decided, you know what? We can put our plastic and metal water bottles in there, the ones that you don't have to use every single day and are pretty durable. So we thought, you know what, it'll be fine in a plastic bag, and we'll just carry that over ourselves, or we can tie the top closed, and that way nothing gets lost out of it. So that's how this one works. And as you can see, if let's say we were to unpack all of the spices, you click on the unpacked, and now it tells me how many things have been unpacked, percentage-wise. The disadvantage to this exact system is that we have a few extra ones here that we haven't filled out yet, and it does include these in that calculation, but you just make sure that there aren't any when you're done. And for the most part, there won't be. I mean, we're going to have way more boxes than this. So you just got to keep on track, make sure you don't have extra spaces. And once you actually click on one of these, if you go back to the first stats page, there it is in the kitchen and in the overall. So you can see if you did one box right now with the few boxes that we've packed, we'd be 98.7% done. Although we aren't there yet. So I will uncheck that. The other rooms are pretty much the same. They just don't have that priority. We may add that to some of the ones that are important, like the bedroom might get that, bathroom might get that, but I don't think we're going to be putting that in like the study or necessarily the miscellaneous or the living room or dining room. However, and for the miscellaneous, we actually have a section just for things like cleaning supplies and stuff like that. That's basically, it goes in any room where it needs to be. So we just left that as a miscellaneous section. Now what we had done here, you see one is actually blank. The only reason it's blank is because we decided we're going to put that in one of these rental boxes. Now this one's a little different. These rental boxes are very specific because we only have 12 of them to save some money. We plan to actually use them more than once. They're really easy to open, really easy to unpack. And because you got to return them, we don't want to hold on to them for that long. So basically, we're going to be taking them over in 1, 2, maybe even 3 different trips. So for each time you take it, you will duplicate this entire row, or at least all these fields, and then make an the exact same name, and we just say it's trip number 2. If you do that, now you know that that's the second trip, but don't do that before you unpacked it. So you get in there, you unpack it, and then you can mark it as unpacked, you bring it back, and then you duplicate it for trip number 2, you do the whole process over again. It works for me. There might be a better way of doing this, but trying to program this thing just right is a little difficult right now. This is integers, but it rounds up, so don't accidentally type in 1.2, it'll just take it down to 2, or for that matter 1.6, it'll take it up to, whoops, 1.6 will take it up to 2. Now right now these are all set to 1 because we have only 1 trip so far. We haven't dropped anything off at the new place, and we only have 12 boxes, so it's limited to that. But next to that we actually have which room it's gonna go in. So instead of being down here in the tabs, we're putting it specifically over here in these cells, and they're already predetermined which ones are going to be, so you don't have to like type it in. And then if we accidentally damage something, we can still mark that. Now I don't think we're going to have the movers move this stuff, so we didn't put fragile in on this. We're just going to do it ourselves. And if we do have the movers do it, we're going to avoid putting fragile things in these boxes just because they are a little more they're like big plastic things. They don't close quite as tight as a taped box, but here you don't have to worry about tape at all. And then you can always just put in what it is, just like normal. So it's a little bit different, but basically the same idea. I do recommend, if you have the money, to go ahead and do these big plastic bins. We got ours at U-Haul. They're very useful. And yes, they do cost more than just buying these cardboard boxes, but at the same time, it encourages you to be a little more environmentally aware, a little more environmentally friendly. You don't have all this tape around. You don't have all these cardboard boxes that you got to figure out what you're going to do with. A lot of people will give these cardboard boxes to someone else, and that's great. But if you have a problem like us, where you might have insects in your house, or in this case our apartment, they are known to hide inside the walls of corrugated cardboard. So you kind of don't want them to be spread from one person to another. So you got to be careful with that. If you're getting old cardboard boxes, you just got to make sure it's not from a place that had bugs. And at the same time, this is also it is a little more expensive, but it encourages you to like get your stuff unpacked. You don't want to keep paying for these boxes. Every day is another $1. So you gotta just get it unpacked, take it back to the place. So that gets you to unpack stuff quicker. So we may actually do a lot more of our stuff on this page just because it's going to give us the chance to get stuff done than we will in the other. Now we do have a lot of cardboard boxes from the last trip that we are going to be bringing over. And yes, I am a little worried about bugs being in them, but we're going to be putting in a lot of bugs traps around the area, and we're actually storing them on the area that's farthest away from where the bugs are. They're basically in the kitchen, and we're like on the exact opposite end of the building where they're staying. So they should be completely fine, fingers crossed, but we do have a bunch of traps that we're going to put out, and we're actually going to be leaving most of the cardboard boxes in the basement. because now that we can tell you what room it goes in, you don't have to put those boxes in that room right away. You can put them in there later. You can just put them all in the basement for now, surround them with traps, so if any bugs are in there, they might come out to the only food in the entire place because it's brand new, there's nothing in there that they might want to eat, and then they'll die from that. So hopefully that's our plan. We'll see. We'll probably do some more of the research to find out ways to make sure we don't accidentally spread stuff from this place to that place, because we don't want to start a new life, a new house with the old problems. But that's basically the plan. So right now we are in the process of filling these in. We're kind of starting with the kitchen and some of the miscellaneous stuff. We've got all these old boxes we got to go through and either repack or just relabel them. A lot of them are like, these are our Blu-rays or our video games, and we're just gonna put like A through C. We don't need to list every single title. But if you want to, be my guest. You can. This way, as you're doing it, you keep track of everything you're doing and you don't accidentally leave something out and forget it. And then you could spend, like we did, months looking for one product that just happens to be in the wrong box and never find it. I know that Dad rubbing alcohol is somewhere around here. Still have no idea where it is. For that matter, when we first moved over, we had completely forgotten that we had an entire big case of toilet paper, and we know everybody had been freaking out over toilet paper when it first came out, and we were no exceptions. We were looking for it, and we were like, we can't find any toilet paper anywhere. And then we opened up one of the boxes that was from the hallway with like cat stuff, and there's a big pack of toilet paper randomly in there. Because we didn't write any of that down, we were completely surprised. I mean, it was a good surprise in this case, but it would have been a lot less stressful had we known that we had packed a big thing of toilet paper and we had kept that tracked on a little spreadsheet. So this is my simple little spreadsheet plan. I'm sure you can make it look prettier. You can probably make it even more interactive. Maybe you can even have a list of every single thing that you've packed listed somewhere. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff you can do with it, and if you get any ideas, go ahead and leave a comment, or try it yourself, see what you think. If you really want to see this, I might be able to like duplicate a sample and get it out there. It's not terribly complicated stuff. There's a couple of fields that are a little bit hidden. For example, all of these are using information that's actually hidden behind these charts, and this is basically the raw data of how many boxes are listed, how many boxes have been unpacked, and that percentage. And I just keep that nice and hidden so you don't have to see it. But that's pretty much it. So if you don't see it, you don't think about it, and you got a nice little visual representation of the exact same thing, so it's easier to track. And that's pretty much it. So if you liked the video, if you thought this was useful, I'm glad I could help. Yeah, so good luck moving if you're in the process of moving, and if you're not, maybe next time that you do need to move, you might think, maybe I can make a little spreadsheet, make it interactive, spend a couple of minutes to put this together. It'll save you a big headache. So I'll let you know how it turns out for us. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone.